Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Trevor and team, thank you for having me, and panel members, thank you for bearing up with me. Let's have a look at what's happening to the industry, tankers specifically. I think we are okay in a cyclic industry normally, right? And that helps taking decisions. But nowadays, emission reductions is making it very difficult because it has a big impact on the decisions we are taking. We don't really know what's coming next. So let's have a look at what's happening. Let's have a look at the order book, and let's have a look particularly on 2030. Exposure to risk is high, but if you get it right, you might have a commercial edge. So some global updates. Energy markets, geopolitics, and the global economy remains unsettled. Just think about the US elections yesterday. Continued fighting in the Ukraine, the Gaza conflict, and the increasing tensions in the Middle East. Think about the Red Sea, has a direct impact on our industry. New trade routes are emerging. Longer routes have a result on the stronger tank trade at the minute. And this is also impacting on the shipbuilding activities. Larger ships are being ordered. Meanwhile, interests remain high. Oil prices are stable at a fairly high, let's say 70 to 80 US dollars a barrel. And decarbonization of industries continues, creating uncertainty, but also opportunity. Alternative fuels, the supply chains are uncertain. So if you look at the regulatory drivers, by IMO 2030, we're looking at 40% reduction compared to the 2008 levels, and zero to near zero greenhouse gases. Fuels and technologies to represent 5 to 10% of the shipping energy mix. 2050, net zero. And then we have looking at the regional requirements like EU ETS, Fuel EU, and whatever IMO is going to come up next with. So one thing is for sure, the ESDs, the technology, and the ESD, the devices will play an important role from 2030 onwards to make sure that we comply. So have a quick look on the tanker markets. Currently strong, also because of the long haul trades, and the tanker demand is also because of the geopolitical situation and the Ukraine. We see 14% uplift for the products and about 9% uplift for the crude oil in 2022, 2023. All tanker demand, because we're looking at an older fleet, for sure in the 20s it will be growing, and in the 30s we expect to see this flatten. And if you see the graph on the, I guess, right side, we're moving from amber to green, and that's not because our ships will be compliant, but that's because when the new tankers are hitting the water. So if you now see what is currently being ordered, there's about 1,300 tankers in order. About 760 are chemical, about 400 crude oil, and 130 oil products. But 70%, over 70% of these vessels are traditional fueled. Nothing on LNG, nothing on methanol, not really. So 70% of the ships being ordered is traditionally fueled. So what's going to happen with those ships going forward? So what can we do? There's 4 major pillars on to reduce emission. First is speed optimization, but how slow can we go? At some point the ship will basically come to a stop. Energy saving devices and retrofits. I think the yards also in this area need to be ready on what we can do, installing energy saving devices on the ships. Fuel transition, running different fuels, expensive, and ultimately we need to decide to go for new builds. So what kind of retrofit solutions are there at the minute? You're installing scrubbers, and we already talked about, Ashad talked about installing sails or the flattener rotors. We can switch to net zero carbon fuels. And ultimately, one of the things, and this is already getting mandatory in some areas in Europe, but also in the US, switch to onshore power supply when the ship is in port. So what further can we do? Carbon capture. We have done some projects on carbon capture and install flattener rotors. Engine retrofits. It's going to be hugely expensive, but let's see what we can do. And also don't forget that the ships are, despite the fact that we are maybe not running on alternative fuels, those designs are much more efficient than the designs we are currently on the water. What have we done as an organization? So the WAPs, the wind assistant with FEL, flattener rotors with Tufton, and we have run a number of methanol and ammonia projects and research. Just some examples there. And basically what we're trying to say here, and we had a discussion yesterday as well, and this morning, is don't buy a solution if you don't know what is your problem. Just make sure that you identify your problem first and buy the solution accordingly, which maybe means for the bigger ship owners, you have to go through your fleet, like literally ship by ship, but make sure you do the right thing for the right vessel. Otherwise, you might be spending too much money on your vessels or not enough. And so have a think, what do you want to do with those vessels going forward? Also have the One Ocean projects. There's a number of things as an organization we are doing. So the Risk Manager EU ETS and Risk Manager Fuel EU are some of the software products from our One Ocean colleagues being on the market. And then, how digital mature are we as an industry? You know, so we are looking at things like cybersecurity, connectivity, digitalization, and you know, how ready are we for a digital future? And then, you know, will investment pay off? Will the brave be rewarded? Will the ones who are the first be rewarded, or will they make the wrong choices ultimately? You know, it's very difficult to predict. Here are just some examples of reports we have ready for you. Things we have done in the past on alternative fuels, carbon capture, and wind assist propulsion. And with that, I would like to thank you.